When we know that something is a function, we often want to evaluate it, meaning take a particular input value, plug it into the function, and find out what its corresponding output value is. For these examples, we're going to find f of -3, f of 2, f of -a, negative f of a, and f of a plus h. Let's start by finding f of -3. When I have this value that's in parentheses, it's in the place of x, and it means that wherever I see x in the function that's given, I'm going to plug that number in. So I am going to take -3 and substitute it here for x. So it's going to be multiplied by 2, and then we'll subtract 5. So for f of -3, we're getting -11. Let's look at f of 2. Instead of plugging -3 in, this time I will plug 2 in for x. So I'm getting 4 minus 5, or -1. What if I were to plug in something like -a? What I'm doing is I'm making a variable exchange in this case. So when I want to think about f of -a, instead of putting x there, I'm going to put -a in its place. Everything else should stay the same. So f of -a will be -2 times a minus 5. Let's see how that's different than plugging a into the function but having a negative in front of the whole thing. I'm going to start by just looking at f of a. So f of a is going to be 2. Instead of putting x, I'll put a in its place, 2a minus 5. But I've got in front of this whole thing, I've got a negative sign, right, because of this. So negative f of a is a negative 2a plus 5. The negative sign is going to distribute to both items in the brackets there. So notice that negative f of a and f of -a, these two items are not equal to one another. Sometimes they are, but a lot of the times they're not. And then for our last example, let's find f of a plus h. For this example, we're going to plug in this whole quantity, a plus h, in exchange for the variable. So I'm going to put a plus h instead of x, multiply it by 2, and then add 5. This will give me 2a plus 2h plus 5. Let's look at another example. This example has 3 terms. The last one had only 2. But everywhere that we see x as a variable, we're going to plug in the various inputs that are given to us. Let's start by finding f of -3. I'm going to take -3 and put it in the place of x here. Notice that I'm putting the negative sign in the parentheses because the negative sign is also going to be squared. I'll put a -3 here for this other x, and then -1. So this has the same structure as the original, the -5x squared, we've got -3 instead, and then plus 2x minus 1. So I'm going to have -5 times -3 squared is +9. 2 times -3 is -6, and then I have a -1. So I've got -45 minus 6 minus 1. So it looks like I'm getting negative 52. Just double checking. Yeah. Okay. Let's plug in 2 this time. Negative 5 times 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 1. So we'll have negative 5 times 4 plus 4 minus 1. Negative 20 plus 4 minus 1 is 3. So we're getting negative 17. Next, what we'll do is plug in negative a in the place of x. So I have negative 5, and then I'll put negative a, the quantity squared, right? The negative gets squared as well, plus 2 times negative a minus 1. So I'll have negative 5. Negative a, the quantity squared is going to be a squared. And then 2 times negative a is minus 2a, and then minus 1. It doesn't look like we can simplify that anymore, so this is our final answer here. Next, let's look at f of a, but with a negative sign in front of it. So now what we're doing is, instead of having x as our variable, we have a as our variable. But the entire quantity has a negative sign in front of it. Let me move this over here. All right, let's see. I'm going to leave the negative sign on the outside for a minute. I'm going to have negative 5a squared plus 2a minus 1. But now everything is going to change its sign as I distribute the negative sign to each of those items in the brackets. So I'll have positive 5a squared minus 2a plus 1. And again, notice that f of negative a and negative f of a don't necessarily equal one another. Let's now do f of a plus h. This might seem like an interesting quantity that we're plugging in. It's actually going to be used for some future problems, and so we're just trying to get practice with plugging in a plus h. So I'll put negative 5, and then I'm going to put a plus h, and that whole thing is going to be squared. Plus 2 times a plus h, and then minus 1. All right, so I've got to do a little bit of math here. This squared is going to be a squared plus 2ah plus h squared. And that whole thing is being multiplied by negative 5. Then I've got plus 2a plus 2h minus 1. All right, let's simplify this. So we'll have negative 5a squared minus 10ah. I'm taking this negative 5 and distributing it to all 3 items in the parentheses here. And then minus 5h squared plus 2a plus 2h minus 1. This is a lot of terms here, but again, this is going to be used for a problem we do in the future. And luckily, some of these things will end up canceling with other things. And so for now, we just want to get practice plugging these in. Let's do one more example of plugging in different input values to a function. Let's look at f of -3 for this square root function. So I'll have 2 minus a -3 under the square root, and then plus 5 on the outside. 2 minus a -3, that's like 2 plus 3. So this is going to be the square root of 5, and then I've got a plus 5 on the outside. We can't combine that square root or the 5, so we'll just leave them separate. What about f of 2? 2 minus 2 plus 5. Underneath the square root, it looks like we're taking the square root of 0, which is allowed. The square root of 0 is just 0, so it looks like our answer here is going to be 5. Let's plug -a into this function. We'll have 2 minus a -a, and then plus 5 on the outside. So this is 2 plus a underneath the square root, and then plus 5 on the outside. How about -f of a? Again, I'm going to put a negative on the outside here. I'll take square root of 2 minus a, and then plus 5. Notice that I've got the square root on the outside. The entire function is inside those square brackets. So inside the square root, I'm going to have 2 minus a, and then we've got plus 5 on the outside. When I distribute this negative sign, it doesn't go into the square root, it stays on the outside. So negative f of a will be negative, in the square root's 2 minus a, and then minus 5. That negative sign distributes to both items. And then for our last example, let's do f of a plus h. So I'll have 2 minus a plus h, and then plus 5. 2 minus a minus h, and then plus 5.